Welcome back to another session once again. This is the 5th session where we are analyzing the pre-SIN material for the May 2020 ICA Ghana exams. And if you haven't watched the 4 previous sessions, please do well to watch them. It's really going to help you and help your efforts, your studying efforts when it comes to passing the exam. So let's dive into it straight away. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so right away and hit the bell icon so that anytime I post videos, you'll be the first to get it. Now, let's talk about problems, plans, and proposal. We are still on Customer Focus Limited. So as Customer Focus Limited was approaching its 5th anniversary, right? Remember that the 5th anniversary was the time when, the owners make a decision as to whether they want to continue the business or would want to sell their stake. And the business owners had begun discussions concerning the next step. So you see exactly what you're saying. There were a number of areas that were discussed. The business owners recognized that there were some unresolved problems with the business that required attention. So what are these problems? There are some problems that probably we are going to be told about. They also recognize that their planning processes were inadequate. So inadequate planning processes is a huge problem, and this has led to some underperformance, of their business and they were unsure on how to respond. At some point soon, the business owners agreed that a decision should be made and a firm proposal adopted either to exit the business completely or to alter its operations or direction in some manner. So there are 2 options here, right? Number 1, exit or continue, but with a different approach, different approach. So these are the 2 options we have here. So this is what, these are the 2 options that the owners are looking at. Now let's move on to the problems. A number of problem areas had emerged which the business owners recognized would need to be addressed if they were to restore the profitability of the business to the levels they expected. Right? So let's look at some of the problems. That's what we will look into. Let's look into some of the problems. Risk management. So risk management is one of the important things. It's one of the really important things when it comes to companies or organizations. Very key. It's a very key issue. So let's dive into it and see exactly what they'll say when it comes to risk management. The business owners had never introduced a risk management policy, largely because they had never identified. So there's no risk management policy. Wow, that's a huge problem, right? So how do they deal with risks? Largely because they had never identified the risks. So they need to identify the risk. What are the risks affecting the company? We need to know. We need to know. So one of the matrices that we use to assess, risk factors, you need to know the frequency of the risk and the impacts of the risk. So there are some risks that have a high frequency and a high impact. You need to put together that matrix, right? So if you look at that matrix, the risk matrix, you have frequency, which is F, and impact, which is I. Which is I. Frequency and impact, which is I. Which is frequency and impact. It could be high, it could be low. You could have a high frequency and a low impact. You could have a high frequency and a high impact. You can have low frequency and low impact. And the organization must come up with ways to deal with all these risk scenarios. So your risk scenario planning should be on point. And let's note that down. Your risk planning should be on point. Your risk planning should be on point. Very, very important. Very, very important. So there are possible scenarios. Number one, high. Let me bring this here so that we say high frequency. I represent it with F, and high impact. You can have high frequency, low impact. You can have low frequency, right? High impact. And you can also have low frequency and low impact. So these are 4 scenarios, that are possible, and organizations must learn how to deal with all these 4 scenarios. Very, very key. Very, very crucial. Very, very crucial. Very, very crucial. So they were now concerned that this should be addressed largely as a response to the declining profitability of the business, and the business owners were concerned that they could see the value of their investment declining. So it's creating a whole lot of problems. So the case is very, very generous enough to share with us some of the risk areas. Number one is competition, which we've talked about several times. Competition. And it's amazing that Customer Focus Limited didn't have any plan in place when it comes to risk management. That's one of the key themes when it comes to managing a business. It's extremely important. Extremely important. So let's move on and talk about other issues as well. Let's move on and look at some of the risks that we have here. Number one is competition. Number two is competition. It says the market is highly competitive and new entrants are frequently emerging, and all that. Number two is the changing preferences of customers. We are seeing new trends in the market where people are wanting to live healthy and all that, So that's also impacting them. Then there's new product lines as well. People are developing new products. So this should be included in their product strategy. All these things are risk in the environment. They also have uncertainty. Uncertainty, they say, is not the same as risk. With risk, key parameters of the problem are understood. With uncertainty, you don't even know the parameters, key parameters. For example, uncertainty may arise because of product development currently unknown by Customer Focus Limited that are taking place by competitors, which can affect our customer shop. So the uncertainties in the market as well. And the case was generous enough to explain the difference between risk and uncertainty, right? And give us an example of the uncertainties that are going on. They have supply arrangements. For Customer Focus Limited, the kind of business they are in, they need reliable supply arrangements and they need very, very good deals when procuring items from suppliers. So they say it is vital that store shelves are stocked to meet customer demand. So this is talking about inventory management. Customers shouldn't walk into your store and you don't have what they are looking for. Any reduction in supplies is a risk along with the potential price increases on those supplies. So if prices are increasing, it's definitely going to affect Customer Focus Limited Customer Focus Limited's objective of selling at low prices. Another risk that's also proven to be a problem is customer switching. And the way you can solve customer switching is through loyalty. So your loyalty system must be on point. And how do you run loyalty schemes? You run loyalty schemes if you have customer intelligence. So your customer database must be solid before you can run a proper loyalty scheme. this way. Unless the business builds loyalty, the company is always at risk from customers who shop where prices are lowest. So the case was generous enough to actually tell us what to, what CFL needs to do. Loyalty. Now let's move on to other interesting stuff. And then let's go on to the next paragraph or the next page. So marketing and digitization. So this is one of the key things. And this is within the purview of Mary Aqua. Mary Aqua is supposed to lead the marketing efforts of the business. Mary Aqua is actually one of the owners of CFL. She has about a 10% stake in the business. The business owners were aware that they did not have enough information, you see. So they do not have a good customer database. Their customer intelligence system is weak to develop effective marketing campaigns. So you need information to develop effective marketing campaigns. So that's why we haven't seen much when it comes to the promotion side of things in this case so far. Remember the 4 P's: place, price, promotion, and products. We haven't seen too much when it comes to promotion or the marketing campaign side of things because they don't have information. They are falling behind their competitors in developing data capture systems. Remember in the case, they said that there are no self-checkouts. Self-checkouts is a way to capture customer data information that will allow them to collect and utilize information on customer spending habits. The feeling amongst the business owners was that they lacked the expertise to develop this, and that funding restrictions meant that no new major initiatives were likely to take place in the long term. So you see, they have funding restrictions, and this might probably come from the debt covenants that they have, and they seem to be tight when it comes to cash, and they have a lot of funding restrictions that is most likely stemming from the debt covenants. As I said, there are 4 sessions before this, and you need to go back to the 4 sessions to understand everything contextually. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. So they lack the expertise, right? They don't have the expertise, but can they contract someone to do it for them? Can they subcontract this, outsource it to someone? So can they outsource this? That's something they must look out for, because they need customer information to be able to develop effective marketing campaigns. I hope that is quite clear. So let's move on to customer demographics. The business owners were unsure if they had correctly anticipated changing profile of customers. And this is related to the fact that Customer Focus Limited does not gather information on its customers. Younger customers have noticeably been shopping at the store, particularly during early evening, and many of them have asked for products that have been unavailable, or because the product line had been sold. So they seem to have a problem. They don't have a wide, the things that customers are demanding for, they do not necessarily have it. And that's a huge problem because they do not even have information to know what customers are buying and stock the correct goods. And this is becoming a huge problem. A number of areas had opened up as further possibilities for Customer Focus Limited to sell, including cosmetics, toiletries, and other personal hygiene products. But these had never been a priority for what started out as a food retail store. So these are some possibilities. So exploring these possibilities is also important. Is this something that customers will be interested in? Customer Focus Limited or CFL should focus on stocking things that customers are demanding for. Otherwise, they will lose customers, because if I come to your shop and I'm not getting what I want, the next day I'm not going to come anymore. And that will lead to reduced footfall in your shop or in your store, And clearly, they need to have a customer relationship, a CRM. CRM is basically customer relationship management tool. They need to have that, because that will give them information and information on what people are asking for, and it will help them put the right products on their shelves. So customer relationship management tool that's needed, and their inventory management system too must be on point. Must be on point. If footfall was important to the business, and it unquestionably was, then Customer Focus Limited was not servicing the needs of many of its potential customers. So I'm sure at this point, footfall is being reduced. So footfall is the number of people walking into your store. The better the footfall, the better the purchases, and the higher your revenue. So you need people to be walking into your store. You don't want to open your store and no one is walking in. Now let's talk about bestsellers and inventory. One of the bestsellers in store were ready-made meals. However, these had limited shelf life, and at the end of the day, the store had always sold out. The business owners were not sure how long some of the other non-perishable lines had been on the shelves, and it was not immediately clear to them which products were selling and which products did not sell. Inventories were managed by staff, but inventory information was neither gathered nor studied. Again, you see the same problem of, inventory information. One of the best sellers, let me read again, in store was ready-made meals. However, these had limited shelf life, and at the end of the day, the store had always sold out. So in this case, are they going to operate a just-in-time system where they have solid relationships with their suppliers, such that when their ready-made meals is about to go down or is about to finish, they quickly get supplies from their supplier? Is this something that is needed? Is this something that they should explore? A just-in-time system, or an inventory management system that is demand-driven, so that in case supplies go down for ready-made meals, they quickly restock in order to furnish customers with what they need. That's very, very important. So let's look at it critically. So you have, I called it a just-in-time inventory management system, JIT. The business owners were not sure how long some of the other perishable had been on the shelves, and it was not immediately clear to them which products were selling well. So basically, they lack information. So let's move on to other things. Then plans. It was recognized by the business owners that a 5-year appraisal was due, but they should bring forward some efforts immediately, since a number of the problems facing Customer Focus Limited required immediate attention. So they had a discussion, right? And Papo was concerned about the decline in profitability. It's a huge problem for, and he's recommending that they do a forecast. Akwesi Boateng is also recommending for forecast as well. He says we will need to think about an appraisal of the accounts to try and understand the key areas which might need our attention. Then Pakwama is saying again that I'll arrange to get the forecast accounts prepared, but we should be ready to make some tough decisions, and should also consider alternative courses of action for the company. And they should, basically do it now. So they are raising the issues here, decline in profitability. They should prepare some forecasts, to see exactly what is going on. Then Mary says, I've already sketched out some ideas. They are underdeveloped and we need to work through the implications and to develop detailed plans if they were to be implemented. Very, very important, very, very interesting. I fully appreciate that financing will be an issue. So they seem to have financing issue, a financing problem. This is something that is very important, financing problem. And the prospect of our continuing in the business may not be very good if we cannot arrange adequate financing. So where can they get financing? And also they have a gearing ratio restriction of 50%. Then Akwesi Boateng says, that much is pretty obvious, but which of your plans is likely to be successful? Do we perhaps need another investing partner? So these are all solutions that they are bringing up. I'm not sure that I'm clear about where to go from here. So they are not certain how to respond, and that's a very tough position to be in as a business owner. The meeting adjourned with nothing more being said. So let's look at the proposals of Mary. Well, Mary is supposed to lead the marketing efforts of the company. The company should launch a loyalty card. That's very, very key. The company should reduce costs to look for more secure supply arrangements. You see, we talked about it. Your supplier, or your supply chain, or whoever you are getting your goods from, should be giving you good prices for it. That's very, very key. So supply chain management is very, very necessary. Seek an equity partner, that's also a possible solution. So these are strategic options, Seek an additional major investment and possibly relocate to a cheaper premise and launch either a companion store in another location or increase the product range. So these are very, very good. You see, since it's expensive to lease, Mary is saying, let's look out for a cheaper premise. And the last option is exit the business with an attempted sale as a going concern. What I didn't see here is they need a customer database. They need a software that will capture customer information. That's very, very important. That's very, very important. And the last thing I would like to say, when you are assessing the suitability of these options, there's a model that we use, which is called SAF, which is suitability, acceptability, and feasibility. 3 things: suitability, acceptability, and feasibility. These 3 things are important when it comes to assessing the strategic option. So you pick each strategic option and assess it on these 3 levels. What I would like to see here, as I've already mentioned, is we need to have a customer database, a customer relationship management system, so that we can capture customer information. That's very, very important. Very, very important. So on this note, this is where we bring this lesson to. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so, as I post a lot more videos here. Thank you and have a good day.